computer, yes. Okay. Hi everybody, welcome to this conversation that I'm so excited to share. Today I am joined by a woman that is so inspiring to me. The first time I heard this woman's voice, I literally got goosebumps all over my body. I had like a proper full body experience when I listened to her words and everything she had to say. Her story and her experiences with life just completely will shift the way you think about fast fashion, and that's why it's so important that we get to listen to this woman's work. Her name is Nasreen Sheikh. She founded two businesses based on the edge of Nepal in India. One is called the Local Women's Handicraft, and the other is the Empowerment Collective. I can't wait to have this conversation with Nasreen. We actually touched base last year, and again, the tears rolled, and again, I had a full body visceral experience of the life that she's lived and the Dharma that she is now sharing, and how she is empowering a whole collective of women, and how that she can empower actually the Western woman to really shift our mindset in terms of how we respond to buying from the high street and fast fashion. So welcome, Nasreen. Thank you so much for joining me and really taking the time out of your important work that you're doing to have this important conversation with everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me and taking your precious time and, to share the story, just not the story of me and the work that I'm doing, but all these people, millions of people who are struggling, especially with this COVID-19 crisis, but also before that. And just to talk about, you were talking like how fast fashion industry is not only affecting the human rights, but also it is making a major problem on our environment. It is a ripple effect that goes in every single thing, like our pollution turns into a water, and that water we drink, and then we get sick, and it's like a vicious cycle of another level of consumption that happens on the global level, that not many people are able to tell the story of from the very bottom line what is happening on the ground. And just to be born in a very, very small, undocumented village where like almost like 100% male dominated society, where women have absolutely like no rights, and if she tried to even speak up for herself and for her choice, most likely she will get murdered, or she will get abused, or she will be outcasted. Like, this is the society that I come from, and from such a young age, if someone comes from such societies, if you try to escape that, if you try to go to somewhere new, most likely you will end up in another kind of suppression. And for me, when I was very young, I witnessed my uncle torturing his wife. I witnessed that one of my aunt being murdered. I witnessed that my own sister, who was little older than me, was being forced into marriage just at the age of 16, and she was arranged when she was only 12. So when I saw that those things are happening, it was still so normal to me, because I'm still a young girl around 8 or 9, and I thought that this is the way that life is. But when I saw that every single girl in my villages were being forced into marriage, and when my sister got married, my mom told me that I would be the next, and that is when I started to feel like, oh my God, this is going to be my turn now. And I had to either accept what my society was telling me to do, or go and do something different. And I decided to escape that village, and with the help of my cousin and my people. And I ended up, it is a long story that hopefully you all will read in the book or in our documentary that will come. that finally I was able to leave the village and I came to city, and the capital city of Nepal, Kathmandu, and I started to work as a slave child labor for textile industry. I was working 12 to 15 hours a day, making less than $2. I slept, worked, made thousands of t-shirts that was demanded of me, and we were being our agent were being contracted one shift of order to another, and if we don't complete whatever the order is being sent to our sweatshop, we have to complete it no matter what. If we don't, then we will not get paid for all of the work that we have done for all this week. So for that reason, sometimes I had to wake up 4 a.m. and work all the way to like 8, 9, 10, and still the pile of clothes are not finished. And imagine like even your children being 9 or 10-year old and being forced into a situation where you just have to finish thousands of t-shirts before you go to sleep. And that is when I would just break into tears, and I was not allowed to talk to the agent, and I was not allowed to even like to talk to anybody. So I started to talk to the t-shirt that I was making, and I tell the t-shirt that whoever is going to wear these t-shirts are going to feel my pain, it's going to feel my tears, it's going to feel my blood even, and my tears would just pour on those clothes, and I was just making it and just putting it down. And that is how I tell through my experience that if people don't know where their clothes come from, 100% you're consuming suffering, because everything, like when you try to make something by yourself and see how much it takes, the energy, the time, and it just takes a lot of it. And if you don't get paid for that, it's the huge part of slavery that majority of our people who consume, they have no idea. They don't know, and they don't know for the reason, because if they will know, no one will ever buy those suffering. And I feel like I'm here to share that story as much I can, to wake up people that every pieces that you see in the fast fashion shop in stores or malls, it's made by someone, it's not automatically made. There's people behind it, and most likely those are the people who are undocumented and most marginalized, and especially women and girls, they are behind, because their voice has been taken away from them, and they are being forced to do this work for non-stop and for very little money. And with that, yeah, like
Nasreen,
taking that.
So let me just, sorry. I just want to just highlight some of the such important stories that you're raising, which are your felt experience. Actually, it's your trauma that you're relaying to us. And I've got a 12-year-old at the moment and a 6-year-old, and just to think of any of my own child being forced to be in an environment that is demanding them to apply themselves without a choice, without any conversation, without any free will. It breaks my heart to hear those words, that you lived that experience, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. But I know that you turn that into something so incredible from that felt experience. But just going back to that day in the life of you as a child, what was that environment, like for people, and how many of those children were in the environment with you?
So with me, we were 6 people total, and the room was 10 by 10. And so in the 10 by 10, imagine how small that space is. And we ate, we slept, and we worked in that same room. And I still remember that we didn't had enough space. So in the night time, we would put all the machine inside, and then we would take all those clothes that we were making and we would turn them into a bed. And then we would take those t-shirts and fold them and turn them into a pillow. Like when you will see the clothing in a very raw form, it is very chemicalized. You know, it smells the horrible. And in my sweatshop, in my that room 10 by 10, we didn't had any windows. So we were like having a really hard time to even breathe. So 6 people eating, sleeping, working in that area. And and there was only one bathroom which was connected to many other sweatshop. People are also coming together. And I remember for the first time when I came to Kathmandu, I had to hold myself to not go to the bathroom for almost 12 hours. And I was just like, oh my God, I just cannot go to the bathroom because it was so horrible. It's really hard to tell and express that in the word. The dirtiest, the smelliest, like not enough water. We had to even wake up 4 a.m. to collect the water. It's like if I can count the suffering that person goes through in the sweatshop, it just it's a way to, once somebody is the victim of the sweatshop, it will take them like one iron gate after another to break through, to even find a courage to ask for help. Like it just makes you so vulnerable that you never ask for help, and you just stay with that situation and live with that. And then you basically, like, if I many of my uncles and my cousins have been working in these areas, and they have went as a child labor, they grew up there, and they eventually have died also. Two of my cousins, they died when they were only around 28-year-old, and because they just worked non-stop. So many of these people are very invisible. And but for me, it was, I worked in the sweatshop for 2 years, and then after 2 years my sweatshop was closed, and I became a street kid. And that is how my life just changed from the sweatshop to being a street kid. And that I could have been victim of human trafficking, sex trafficking, anything, you know. But I was very blessed to meet complete a stranger who took care of me and started to send me to school and started to teach me. And then from there, I just, once you have the education, I still live with that trauma, and it will never go away. And I still miss my childhood. When I think of that, I think of all those 2.3 million children who are still stuck in the sweatshops. I think of them, and there's still many of them are there that we don't get to see. But I think I'm here to tell their story, to really encourage people to ask questions where their things come from. It's not only about clothing. Like some of my cousins, they work in the light factory as a child labor. Some of my cousins, they work in the also like so many different like jewelries, and some other stuff also is connected with the sweatshop. So it's really important for all of us to the phone is ringing. So yeah.
Just to, I mean, your experience, it makes me so emotional to even contemplate, to even imagine that that is a reality for somebody, and that is still a reality today for children. That is why this conversation is so vital, that we bring the light to what is happening now. And I'm so grateful that you were able to break free of that, and you have a voice, and you've really used that voice for the good. And I know that it's not easy, you know, because you've been through something of, you know, so much trauma, and that deep reverence for the fact that you are standing here today and have really empowered so many other women. And we'll get on to your work in a moment. I just wanted to ask some questions that maybe some of the people watching might ask you. So the kind of questions that I think people will respond to this would be, well, how do I know? You know, I have these high street stores and shopping malls, and I walk into a shop and I, you know, desire a piece of clothing, and I walk in and I buy a t-shirt. How do I know that that has the slave labor involved? And, you know, is it a case, I mean, I know from my experience and how I feel comfortable with ethical and sustainable now, knowing what I know. But of course, if somebody doesn't know about all of these different, you know, the sustainable development goals, for instance, and all of those things, how, you know, what would you say to the Western woman that has actually no idea that this exists?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you for asking that. I feel like what Western women have that nobody else has in the world, and that is their education and their technology. And through this technology and awareness, we can really right now, like you can find a lot of information. Like there's so many fair trade campaigns going on, you know. But because you know, slavery is still here because somebody is profiting from this, you know. Somebody is still, like fashion industry is like a billionaire, it's billions of dollars are there. So many of these companies are being benefited by it. That is why they take these stories and they trash them. But I feel like only the people and the Western women and the men and everybody who born in that place, who have access to technology, who have access to education, who have access to electricity and the water, you know, these are very basic thing that people think there, but it is a very powerful tool to have, because majority of the people in this planet does not have that. If they have the electricity, they don't have the internet. If they have the internet, they don't have the education, you know. So like all these people in my part of the world, we are in the dark, and we are just participating in the suffering because nobody is telling us what is our right, and we don't know our right. But at the same time, people in the Western, they don't know that there are people who are making these clothes in a terrible, terrible situation, which is not right. So I feel like if the Western world can really start researching, and if they can really take an accountabilities and responsibilities of having access to so much stuff, where it come from, who makes it, why it's so accessible, you know. And if it's accessible, then why it's so cheap, you know, where it's going to end up. Like why my children have all of the sudden 20 clothes in a month, and somewhere in the world, like children are walking on the field with with having no clothes, you know. I see in this village many children, they don't even have a shoes, they don't even have a socks, they don't even have a clothes, you know. They're in this whole 1 or 2 years, they get one pair of clothes that wear the whole year. So, and these are the yet people who works almost 12 hours, and they can't get even like $5 or $6 a day to attain a basic clean water or send their children to the school. So they are basically being in the systemic oppression. And people in the Western world is non-stop being advertised to buy this model, to buy this style, this design, and they never tell the story of those artists, of those people who makes it. So I think this is the time for all the educated women, for all the aware people who really care about, if they care about their future children, if they care about Mother Earth, and if they care about humanity, the first thing we need to do is to really trying to find out what are they consuming. Are they consuming suffering and being a part of oppression, or they are participating in change to liberate the freedom for those people who are stuck? I literally feel people in Nepal or people in India, all these women and children, we are looking up to you guys, because you guys have access to shed a light on these. So these companies can really change their law. They can really look into the problem and try to solve this. Like, just imagine if 12 years ago, someone from England or someone from America could have asked question where my clothes come from. Those company would have come to Nepal, and they would have start looking at it, like where, like they would have, you know, tracked those supply chain. And if they would have tracked that supply chain, they could have found my face. And I did not have to live the experience as a childhood, and that's such a traumatizing experience. And I could have been much more participating in the potential change of this planet than living with a trauma and trying to like figure this whole thing out. And many people, they fail in this. They lose themselves because it's so traumatizing. It doesn't goes away. So I feel like this is the time that we really need to connect, and we can connect through the things that we consume, because that is how we can make a difference. And the whole world is literally buying and selling things. If that becomes fair, a lot of things will become fair too.
Definitely. And wow, yeah, I really, everything you've highlighted and shed a light on there is so resonant, because without awareness, without connecting the dots that I am a responsible participant in this systemic oppression, I am actively participating in holding down slave labor and the rights of women across the world, just by purchasing blindly from these retailers that have not put any traceability within their supply chain that is visible. So just by what I actively do and how I spend my dollar is actively helping and you know, releasing this oppression by making these conscious choices. If we step away from fast fashion, where do we go? Like, how do we then you know, what do we then buy? So I know that you've set up something called local women's handicraft. I'd really love you to explain what that was all about, how that came to be after you broke free from slave labor and ended up on the streets. You met a man that was like a spiritual father, in a sense, from what I've heard.
Yeah. And he was, yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about that relationship and that connection and how that then expanded you to create.
Yeah, so you know, he could have been a really negative person and could have took me to the human trafficking or sex trafficking, and that is how in Nepal, just in Nepal, 10,000 plus women get into sex trafficking. So being a girl in Asia is like, you know, it's hardest things ever. Like all the oppression of the entire thing is on us, on our shoulder. Like everything, we are just banished, not allowed, not allowed. And then just give me a second, my phone is keep buzzing and just like
Don't worry.
Sorry, my phone just keep buzzing.
Okay.
So I was saying that I met my teacher. He was a person that he chose love over fear, or love over, you know, profit. So he was a very simple man, and he started to just come to my sweatshop and started to teach me. And then slowly, once I had the education, I started to make the things that I have learned in the sweatshop. So even in the darkness, if you really look into, you can always find a piece of light. And that piece of light in that sweatshop that I had is my skill. And that skill is literally, it's made me to make more beautiful products. And I started to see and learn that in Nepal, almost 85% of women, they're working for the sweatshop. And majority of the women are victim of forced marriages and domestic abuse and so many problems. So what I did is I started to bring the most vulnerable women, and I started to teach the skills that I had. And then from that, when I started to do that, I saw lots of women were gaining independency. They were also gaining confidence, and they're also learning skills, and they were being literally a part of that change. So when I trained the one woman, then that one woman trained other women, and then the other women trained other women, and like that we were like almost 8 women. And when we were 8 women, I think I was around 15 and 16 at that age. I was able to create local women's handicraft. I took some loan, which is a long story, taking a loan as a woman and as a girl in my part of the world. So finally, after if you're determined, you can do anything, you know. So after lots and lots of work, we were able to finally get that loan. We built our first store, local women's handicrafts. And then we started to build in 2012 empowerment center. And in that empowerment center, I basically envision every single thing that I did not had in a sweatshop. I want all my women to have a living wage. I want my women to know their faces. I want them to know who they are. And also, I really want to work towards a vision where I want to make sure that any children that are born on this planet have basic human rights. Because if we don't achieve that, then why we are here? You know, like this is as a collective is very important to make sure that every single children that born in this planet have that basic right. So I'm working towards goal with the help of Empowerment Collective. And Empowerment Collective is a non-profit organization that is helping to rescue the women from the sweatshop, bringing them to the training. And once they're trained, they go and move into a local women's handicraft. And in the local women's handicraft is a social business, which is basically focused on making very ethical and sustainable, natural materials, fabrics, and this products to share with the world our skills, that this is what we are capable to. Don't turn us into a machine, you know. We don't want to be a machine. Like when I was making like thousands of t-shirts, I was not a human, I was a machine, you know, that is copying. But I have much more power than that, you know, trying to make that same thing. So we have so far 2 empowerment center. One is in Kathmandu, and one we have built in this village that I'm in right now. And my goal is to help almost 10,000 women by 2025. And just now we are working on a campaign called 1 Million Mask Initiative. And in that 1 Million Mask Initiative is all of the work. Because of the COVID-19, our shop got stuck, and our center is just being like in a position of like, we don't know what's going on. So we are trying to bring sustainable and eco-friendly ethical masks to the people who couldn't afford, and also to sell them through our website. We have a really beautiful website that people can read all these women's stories, they can see the products, and same people can visit Empowerment Collective and sponsor women and help us get rid of this sweatshop, because I feel like this is so bad. Like we don't need to have this in 21st century, you know?
Oh, I feel you, Nasreen. Oh my gosh. I'm going to share all of your links at the end so that everybody can find your work, because let's support you as much as we can. Really get behind this, because I feel that I want to be a part of this movement. I want everybody in this audience that's watching this to be a part of this and help you to uplift these women and empower this collective of women that, you know, can find their own power within, that they can then go on to create. Because it's so important. We need the men, the women, the children to be uplifted, and that's what we're about. We're about this circular living economy now. This is the time. We're in 2020. It's not about keeping the wealth to us as Western people. It's about how can we give this wealth out. When we become more connected to the earth and connected to our heart space, how can we use this to better the planet for everybody? So I'm so behind this, like,
Yeah.
my whole body, my heart. It's like, we need to get behind you and help you. So I really feel we'll share all of that at the end. What I hear from what you describe, and I remember the first time that you explained this story to me, of this robotic system based way of producing a garment. So just going back to when you were in that sweatshop, you literally had to do one operation, is that right? So
Yeah.
just again and again and again all day,
Yeah.
for those hours.
Yeah, like the same stitching over and over and over. And you know, like when you are young, you're very energetic, you're very, you know, I was very, like most of the time I was like exciting, but when it turned into like 8, 10, 11, 12, 13 hours, and when my week started to happen longer and longer, it felt like I was like being hypnotized somehow, and felt like more slowly, like my brain was not working, my body started to feel like machine. And yeah, just making, like if I was making this solder, then I would just crafting one side, one pieces, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of time. And why we did that? Because it was faster, you know, and also I was able to produce the good qualities, because when you do same thing hundreds of times, it becomes automatically good quality. But it's not good for our creativity, you know. It's not good for my brain, because my brain couldn't think anymore, you know. And that is what I feel like most of the people like who are using and benefiting by it, they don't want people to become creative, because creative is a really threat to the evil, you know. The evil does not want that. So so it's really sad. It has a lot of cycle of oppression that goes very, very deep. And I feel like, you know, if we take on how bad the world is going, and how much the mess and, you know, the trauma that we have created, it's like we are going to lose our mind. And I always encourage people to start from very simple, you know. What can you do today that will make a change tomorrow someone's life, you know? If you buy one single clothes, it's like maybe in that physical time when you buy that clothes, you don't see the change right there, but actually somewhere in the small villages, some children is being freed, and they will be sent back to their parents' home, you know. Then all these girls who are being forced into marriage at early age, it's not about just a tradition. It's a brainwashing for this community to make these girls early marriage, so they can produce 5, 6, 10 children, which will be a free labor for this world to create more accessible, cheaper stuff. And I just being in this village, and I see like one woman have 8 children, and see herself in her early 28, you know, and very young, and she's still herself as a child, and how she's going to take care of all those 8 children. And if she failed as a mother, she's forced to send those children out of her home, and they go away, and they become victimized after victimized. And look, like we are losing these beautiful rivers that we used to have, and the mountain, we are not even have access to clean water. But we do have to first really take care of our mind, because when we think too much, then we do nothing. And so I feel like step by step, just asking questions, supporting those small businesses, sustainable business who's trying to do their best, because really literally, like they do that businesses because they want to save their community. They live for humanity, you know. It's not the purpose of making and becoming a billionaires. They just want to support. So let's try to change those $1 billion fast fashion industry more into a sustainable by taking and purchasing just one outfit ethically sourced. Next year you will do it, and it will have a ripple effect, and change happens really fast. Like once one person sheds a light, you know, like there is a saying in my village that one educated person can save the whole village, you know. And it's really true, because if we shed one time light, it has a effect on so many levels that we don't even get to see, but you can feel it if you really connected and if you really keep doing that.
I totally agree, Nasreen. Thank you for sharing that. Just one light, and it lights a whole village. And it's like one conversation can ripple to many conversations, and just us having this conversation. Oh, the light comes in. Just having this conversation, then it sparks the conversation with maybe your family members, you know, because not everybody is, I would say, on a consciousness level where they are willing to let go of the way we've been taught. And so just having these small conversations with your family about what else is happening in the world really does inspire a change and a shift. And it might be like a very small shift. It might be, my mum has started to really consider things in a very different way now, just from me having these conversations, because I can't force her to change, but I can inspire her by the way I change and the way I am handling my own wardrobe of clothes, because and everything, you know, the way I buy food and the way I plant food in my garden, and different ways of being and behaving is the inspiration. But having those conversations with what else is happening in the world, I think it lights a whole fire for everybody. And that's why it's so inspiring to hear your words, first-hand experience. Because we can see documentaries, sometimes it's like we've seen the documentaries, but people then, you know, when you're talking about, you know, doing that one operation on a sewing machine, the way I feel about that as a Western woman is that we've been ingrained to buy and purchase from fast fashion like that one operation. So in our mindset, it's like, oh, you know, I don't know any other way, so how do I stop doing this? You know, how do I break free? And creativity is the way forward, you know, to break free of that one way of doing is like, oh, how can I change my own way of thinking with this? So I really hear what you're saying, and I'm talking from a different, you know, I've been in the fast fashion world, and we discussed the polarities of the world you were in and the world I was in. I was held in what felt like trapped in the retailer, in the head office, and I was visiting you as working for the big retailers. So I was visiting the factories and seeing the hidden elements, the whispers of slave labor, but it wasn't there in my face. I was visiting what do you call them? You know, handiwork, where piecework. So it's handed out to villages. So I would visit the houses. And that's when it dawned on me that it's not all controlled in a factory. People are in their homes doing this work for us. So there's no control, there's no voice for this woman that is in her home with all of these children. The children are probably doing the work as well. But we
and most of these sweatshop, like, that nobody could ever you know, figure that out, because it's unmarked in the buildings and it's a small room, there's not even a windows, and the agents are very aware of that situation, that somebody might come, so they try to close the door most of the time. And you know, there's so much a story, oh my god, like if I tell you, it will take me like I don't know how many hours. And so that's why I'm trying to write this book, because the way that it's so hidden, it's so like, it's like a net, you know, trying to figure this whole thing out. It just it puts you into a situation that, okay, there's so much going on, like so much. So what we, like you, as you were saying, like in the Western world, you know, like how I was trained here in the sweatshop to make the same pieces thousands of times, you guys were trained as to buy every season 5 stalls or whatever, you know, and that is itself is also a sickness, you know, that we feel like it does not, it's not going to fulfill us. And for the first time in the history, that we are realizing that, you know, that this is not what we want. What we want is the happiness of all. Like we are more looking into collective, and I feel like if we choose to become collective, that is only the way that we can save this planet. Otherwise we don't have much time left. Like I see already these rivers being dead. We already have like such a huge temperature. We are already polluting our oceans, you know. So we must become responsible, and you know, and only by that we will be able to close those sweatshops. We will be able to free everybody from that sweatshops. And you know, I do get so nervous and frustrated with the billionaires who just keeps their money in the bank account. Does it really serve? Is it going to stay with you forever? This life is so short, and it's so like you never know when the clock is going to stop. And what are we creating? So maybe those people are also unaware of the situation, what is happening in the ground level. Because when you were visiting as a researching on these garments, not necessarily you knew that there's a sweatshop, you know. So it's like it's a channel of things that goes like this, and we all are disconnected because for really really long time we have been disconnected with ourselves. We have never thought of like wearing fair thing, or we just thought like we are hungry to just consume and consume and consume. And now like, okay, you need to stop because this is just too much. So I hope that also the billionaires and the leaders will look into that deeper level and start to change their businesses model, because that is where the change will happen. The businesses needs to start adopting sustainable models and ethics, and we don't need to have chemical clothes and human suffering clothes and environmental problem and all that. We have created it, so only we have the power to solve it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I hear you. And, you know, when I worked for those companies that were the billionaire, millionaire companies that I was working for, I'd go back and I said, oh my God, this thing is happening. And nobody wants to know. It's like I think of it as comfortably numb, because nobody's really in here connecting to what is real, or what is, you know, happening for humanity. So and it's obviously systemic, so breaking free from something that has massive profit margins, and to put that into people and to redistribute that profit. You know, I pray as well that the people in the power, somebody somewhere will be able to redistribute that wealth. Because for me, coming into maturity on the planet, you know, for me it's about like, from being a young girl and thinking it's all about me and buying, and I want to dress myself, and you know, being in that Western environment where it's like it's very centered around what you look like and being seen to be wearing something different all the time. Coming into a mature woman on the planet now with children, knowing that I'm part of the earth, and what do I have to give? What can I give back? What can I give to other people to redistribute what I have? So, you know, it's such a big part of it. I pray as well that those people in those top tiers of society will change. You know, it's again, it's this changing, isn't it? And
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Nasreen. Just, it opens so many doorways when we have this conversation, because there's so much that is hidden on the planet. There's so much that has changed in the recent months. So, you know, I think COVID has made people think differently. There's a different level of now what is survival, what is thriving, and also I feel like there's a mindset shift in what is important for us on the planet, and so hopefully there will be more of a shift in the fashion world. Hopefully clothing has to become more expensive and more exclusive, in a sense that we don't think of it as just something cheap, something to throw away, something to, you know, damage the planet and we don't care. Hopefully we have more awareness and more we've had time to think about what we're doing differently.
Yeah. I feel like you're right. Like this COVID is definitely bringing us a lot of questions to think, and it's for better, you know. It's bringing us closer, and really, like, you know, the way that we all were being, you know, like, it does not matter like where we all are working so hard, and still we are having a really hard time to continue with life. So why we do need to create that cycle? We don't need to buy 20 pairs of clothes if we don't need it, you know. There is no need to show off other people, because it's literally we are encouraging the other young girls, like, hey, why don't you have those shoes or those clothes, you know? And it doesn't. So right now we all are consuming a very good quality information, hopefully that will change our life, and people like yourself and people like from our team needs to keep spreading this awareness and this knowledge to wake people up, because our voice has been suppressed for really long time. Like for the first time I feel like someone who have really lived that experience, like it's in my blood and it's alive in my experience of being a 9-year-old and stuck in that sweatshop, and telling you that story today, it just feels unbelievable to me. Like I feel like I don't know how many timeline I have crossed, and sometimes when I look back I really freak out, because I still see my cousins are being suppressed. I still see millions of people are like suffering, and I see still like in this village I see like all these daily wagers, they could not even afford a one meal a day, and still these people work 12 to 15 hours a day, and if they get shut down all of a sudden they can't feed their families. They're desperate. So this is not the world that we want to create. And I feel like in the Western world people just don't really know, and right now this time of COVID hopefully really bring us together to consume only quality information which serves you and the people and the planet. That's only I feel I want to encourage, and I really want to let people know that, like, I hope that you travel when things gets open, and you get to see and come to Nepal, come to India, and come to China, and see how people are behind with these products. Feel there, like there's a blur, like people can't even breathe there because the pollution is so polluted. None of the children here have the a yard or the parks that they can go play with. Like very simple basic rights is taken away from us, and only everybody waking up can help us get through this. So
yeah, the empowerment collective that you've set up, just to really shine a light on that, what are the main areas that you focus on? Is it about women breaking free from the corruption and the kind of trafficking and the enslavement that they're in? And what happens, you know, within that logistic? Like, how are you managing that?
yeah, so Empowerment Collective is based in US, and it's a non-profit organization, 501c3, which is tax deductible. Anybody donate, they get tax deductible. So it is basically the idea is to end the sweatshop, you know, and to end the sweatshop means first, mostly almost like just in Nepal, 85% of women they're working in the sweatshop. So also all around the world, if you see in the garment industry, many women are behind that, you know, in Philippines, in Nepal or in India and Bangladesh, you know, many women are doing that's repetitive work for very, very less money, less than $2 $3, and if they don't do, then they're being abused and all that. So my goal with Empowerment Collective is to end sweatshop, and we are going more deeper, which is we are setting up an Empowerment Collective center, and in that center we set up those centers in an area where the sweatshop is more active. So we bring the women who goes to work for the sweatshop. We tell them, these are the basic rights for you, do you get this in the sweatshop? And when they say no, then we bring them and we meet many, like we are very well known in this area, so the people knows like this is the place that you can go and get training. And once the training lasts for, like, it's not just for a week or a month, we do the training for up to 6 months to all the way to 4 years. And once the women are really trained and they're really confident and independent, then we tell them, you go out and seek a job with dignity, or ask for these things. Or if you can't find a job, come and work in local women's handicraft. And we have this social business enterprise where we're trying to expand and give more works to bring economy to the women. One thing that I feel is, even I was getting education, even I started local women's handicraft, my family started to tell me that I need to be forced into marriage. I still need to get married. And, I was too awakened and too aware. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get forced into marriage that I don't know. And the only thing that helped me is my economy, having a store and able to connect and meeting people like yourself from all around the world. It gave me the power to see the world in a much more different perspective, that I felt like, I need to be the role model for all these women that needs help, that they think that every girl should be forced into marriage. We don't need to do that, we need to let go of our programming that we have been integrated for like almost ancestor after ancestors, so or generation after generation. So yeah, the Empowerment Collective opening empowerment center, we focus on those. We have 5 pillars, which is health, education, environment, and skills learning. And we, when COVID happened, we help over 4,000 people with emergency relief package just in this 4 months through Empowerment Collective. So those are the works that we do, and every single dollar that people donate here just goes directly to the people, because for me it's very, very important to just make sure that nobody goes hungry. And when I was in the, I forgot to tell you, but when I was in the sweatshop, I was forced to eat rotten rice and a rice with the bugs, and I would find a thread in my rice, and it was just like, I have seen such a deep suffering that I don't want any other people to see that. So I use those money as energy and as a tool to really liberate that. And when I do that, it's really healing me in my childhood. And that is how I say that I'm trying to, whenever I think of my past trauma, I think like, what could I do right now to solve those memories that I have? And how can I, when I see women being tortured, I remember my sister and I remember my aunt when I was young. So I'm really trying to heal myself through helping people, because that's the only thing that gives me hope and that gives me like calming. Otherwise, there is I always say, like, sometimes we think that we are helping people, but we are helping more ourselves, because there's huge, so many levels of doors that are open that we think, oh, why does people don't help? Because being service to other is a service to self. It's like this, So maybe the world thinks that I'm being so kind and so helpful to helping so many people, but in the deeper level, it's helping and healing me and my wound to become more radiant, to bring more awareness to this darkness.
Oh. Just have to take a deep breath there, Nasreen. Wow, that just speaks so much to me. And yeah, being of service, transforming and transmuting the pain that you went through and you experienced into power is just such a gift. And yeah, thank you for being here, for showing up, for empowering others through your story, but through what you're actually doing now to assist and free and liberate a collective of not only women but the next generation of children. And that's why we're here. It's the future generations that we are here to really liberate and uplift. So wow, such amazing work. Thank you, sister.
Thank you so much, Kerry.
Thank you. I could talk to you all day, but I understand that you have to go back to work. And yeah, I really value your time and your energy and everything that you're doing on the planet. So I just want to, ask, how can we support you and support your work? How can people find you? I'll obviously post your links along with this conversation, but if you want to just highlight the most kind of important ways that people can connect in and support your work now.
Yeah, people can always volunteer online. We're always looking for volunteers to help us become more active on the international level. And I've never been to the colleges and universities, so I have a very deep understanding around how we can reach and help the most vulnerable, because I was that person and I saw that nobody was helping. So I just know that how to go there and how to help the women and how to help those children who are stuck and making that plan. But I have no idea how to make a press release about my work, and I don't know how to share the work that I am doing with the women and their stories to the worldwide. So for that reason, we need volunteers who could come and give like even 1 or 2 or few hours of their time to help us help more women and more children. And we need to save that. I feel like that's like, I just see the children and they're just so precious. They're like literally star of like love, and what we are turning them into, like, it just feels like unbearable. So I feel like if people can really help with that would be really great. And people can always, if they don't have time, they can, if they have money, they can donate to Empowerment Collective. And if they want to buy a gift for their friends and families and for themselves, they can purchase local women's handicraft. And we are very active in the Instagram and Facebooks and stuff. We make updates about things that we are doing, so people can follow us there too. And yeah, I'm just very much just, I feel like we need people help, and especially in this time, the hardship that I have gone through and the experience that I have challenged through, and I have the right spirit, the right people have come on the perfect time to help and uplift me. That is why I'm here. Otherwise I would be also hidden, just like my older sister. I have not seen her for 12 years, and myself, and she's hidden, and the world does not know about her. So I feel like just people like yourself who gives us the opportunities to be more heard and seen and talk about that experience, so the world can become more connected. And we can feel peace, because people are always saying like, I'm seeking peace. We can't seek peace as an individual. We need to come together and we need to connect to build that community of oneness. And we can do that by supporting each other. And so bringing, like, not right now, our organization is no longer just on Nasreen. It's the whole collective of the women coming from many different villages, always comes to me for asking for help, because they know this is the place that I'm going to get help. So having that exchange coming from somewhere else also means so much world to us, so we can grow. And really, like, the only wish I have being in this planet that I felt like I came here for, and the things that I have to go through, is to end the sweatshop. Because, and that fast fashion industry, that needs to go as soon we can, because it's not serving anyone. Actually, it's bringing destruction every second. So let's fight together on this.
Oh, I'm right with you. Thank you so much, Nasreen. I'm sitting here thinking about how I can be of more assistance to you and how I can go that next step with assisting your work. So I'm just thinking of ideas now, but I'll discuss them with you. I feel like, is there an ambassador thing that we can plug into? You know, I know lots of women that are empowering women in the feminine embodiment work that I also do for women that are in the Western world. But as we get more connected with ourselves as Western women, that we have been very disconnected with Earth, Mother Earth, the planet, humanity, we are now becoming more connected. That full embodiment of the feminine means that we then have this gift to share and the wealth to distribute. I'm wondering if there's some sort of way that we can be ambassadors for you, and we can have you on our websites, or we can share, you know, distribute our public, you know, platforms to share you with on us, you know. And it speaks volumes to me, because I've spent 18 years in the corporate fast fashion world. So I want to have, you know, I want to like have donation buttons on my website for you, or something where there's that distribution happening that's active, rather than just talking through conversation. I feel like there has to be now an action, you know.
Yes, I feel like, yes, you're right, there's so much information and so much things, and right now we just need to act, and act as soon, through the way that we consume, but also the way that we can use our money to help liberate this. Because money is a power on the very positive, like we can use for negative, at the same time we can use for positive. So there's many people, they do donate, but they don't know where the money is going, you know, and they donate to the huge organization, and it just, we have no idea. But supporting a small organization like ours, which has only like very, very tiny team, and going the money directly to the people, to the community, it's just like a life-changing experience. Like, we help one person, and like people on the very, very poverty level, they are very desperate to change. You just give them one chance and they want to take care of themselves, everything, because they don't want to be a beggar, they don't want to be a victim, they want to change, you know. So if we give them that power, they will try, they will wake up. And then we all are waking up, and we all are like sharing our beautiful culture. Like Nepal have a beautiful traditions and spiritualities, and our, you know, history is very ingrained on the feminine, and all the goddess and divine energy, all this knowledge is so powerful. But right now, all of these women, they have been victimized for really, really long time. They have forgotten that knowledge, and there's only very small amount of women, they know about their knowledge. So how can we save them, how can we keep them? And that is where I think we can use these monies to actually first free these women, so they can go back to their culture and keep that tradition to share with that world. And imagine being our world with all these different unique cultures and diversities and food, how amazing that would be, you know. And so yeah.
I feel that how can we all this beautiful ancient wisdom, how can we all reclaim that back, that remembrance in our hands that we all have, that we can you know, from our ancestors that we've lost along the way through colonization, through lots of different oppression systems that have come onto the planet. But how can we reclaim that for ourselves, both sides of the world, you know? It's for so that we can then create this oneness, create this humanity that we want to see and that we can imagine. We're just having this conversation is uplifting, and it is shedding light on hidden systems and shadows that are not seen. So I really appreciate you spending time to do the work that you're doing and to also have this conversation. Thank you.
I just feel like, you know, love is like, a lot of people, they operate from fear, and as soon we try to work with that fear, it's literally there's no point, you know, to be in that fear. And the more we learn to love and to be in service, the life is magic. You know, people say like magic is not real. It is. Once we all start to live in that experience, and every time we are confronted by choice, you know, either choose love or fear. And many of us are, you know, we forget that there is a love, you know. We have only been like, oh, I'm scared, I'm worried, I'm this, I'm that, you know. I just want to like, let's let go of that, and let's open your heart, open your consciousness, and just surrender yourself to be that unique person, you know, to be that person of divine energy, to shed light on this darkness and be that volunteer of this planet to bring that. And you know, it's a start from you're right next to your door where all these fast fashion industries are there. Like, ask them question to bring the stories of these clothing, and once you do that, see what happens. See right there, like the action is like, once you take action, there is a change, you know. And I'm trying my best here, and if you can try your best over there, that is what we could do, right? That's the best we could do, you know. And so you were talking about the ambassador program. We do have the change maker program in our empowerment collective, that anybody could go and sign up. Once they sign up for the newsletter, they can see that. So you can become for change maker program and help assist our aim to end the sweatshop and trying to enable basic human rights, because that's my longest fight for this whole thing. And I need many women and powerful people on the board or on the ambassador to come together and give my voice a power to that story, that blood, that the experience that I have lived in that sweatshop, that just needs to be healed with the majority of the energy once we all come together. Because it's so sad. Like, I mean, I just wish nobody to go through.
Sorry, it's time for change, Nasreen, and we're doing it. We're going to leave the legacy that we want to see on the planet by making these shifts, hopefully sooner rather than later. So I'm with you. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Thank you everybody that's listened, and please check out Nasreen. I'm going to share all of the links to this conversation, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Kerry. I absolutely adore you, and thank you so much for, you know, bringing a light on this and sharing this message. And hopefully our voice will be really heard by many people. And please share this message and with as many people and friends and, you know, the groups that you know, to bring light on it, you know. And I'm sure, I think this might have gone long, and if people want to see very short version, people can go to my TEDx talk too. There is a TEDx talk that I talk just 10 minutes. So people could do that too. So just so appreciative. Thank you so much. Sending you lots of love.
Lots of love, Nasreen. And I'm going to end it